Today's topic, understanding lies in a relationship. How to tell if your partner is lying or not. What signs to look for. Evaluating the science behind lying. You don't want to miss this show, so stay tuned. Also share this with everyone you care about, if you truly care about them. The act of lying is never clear cut and dry. The fact is, even if you wired your partner to a polygraph test, they may be telling the truth, while the test says they are lying. Or they may be lying when the polygraph says they are telling the truth. Even a polygraph test, otherwise known as a lie detector test, is only as good as the examiner, called the polygrapher. Guess who has the wisdom and the intelligence, along with a high level of discernment? That's right. Like always, it's all up to you. Science loves to boast about their supposedly highly accurate testing methods. But the fact is, while most humans may be easy to read, some people will always be very tough to predict. One cannot simply say that one given method successfully applies to everyone. It's not so easy, people. You can't just say because science says this, so it applies to everybody. That is very foolish, immature, and unwise. It's not intelligent either. So let's go ahead and jump right into it, because it has everything to do with relationships, as you'll soon find out, beyond the obvious. All right, let's look at what the science says about lying. Sometimes someone telling a long, dramatic story may actually be telling the truth. Now, if there are blatant exaggerations, which are obviously impossible, without any doubt whatsoever, then yes, most likely they are, in fact, lying. Contradictory information is suspicious. However, be very careful with this supposed sign of lying, because it all depends whether they are trying their best to recollect specific details, which they could honestly get wrong, most likely because it's too much information to recall, or otherwise. Playing with one's hair could be because the person is either comfortable, anxious, uncomfortable, or nervous. Fumbling while talking could just be the way the person normally talks. You never know. Providing few details depends on how many details there is on a case-by-case basis. No two stories are the same. Avoiding direct eye contact may be uncomfortable for many people, even when they are telling the truth. Many people almost never look someone directly in their eyes anyway, especially nowadays with so many cases of ADHD. Clearing one's throat has obvious, legit reasons. Maybe the one telling the story of their events isn't drinking enough water, or has a dry throat, or maybe they've been talking too much lately for that day. Stuttering could be due to a lack of nutrients, vitamins, and minerals that impede the brain from functioning optimally. A poor diet directly affects one's speech patterns, as well as physical effects such as eye or muscle twitching, being jittery, or speaking with a lack of energy or emotion. Many times there are legit excuses for specific situations, even if they sound odd or uncommon. We're not all the same. Many people are uncomfortable when it comes to talking about certain topics, even if they are in fact telling the truth. Just because a person looks uncomfortable doesn't necessarily mean they are lying. Having a defensive posture could be for a variety of reasons. For instance, sitting or standing with crossed arms or legs doesn't automatically mean that a person is defensive. This is what is called habitual behavior. It's also called contagious behavior when the person listening is doing the same supposedly defensive posture. Now, does that make sense? For the one following the supposed science saying, oh, well, you have your arms crossed, so you must be lying. You're so defensive. Why are you so defensive? No, they might just be comfortable that way while speaking to others. I know a lot of people who do all kinds of things that science supposedly says they're lying when I know 100% they're not lying. For instance, looking up and to the left while thinking, they say, oh, that's a sign of lying. No. We're not all robots. We're not all programmed the same way. Life is a slot machine. You pull the lever and see what happens. We're not all going to get the same results, okay? People act differently. You got to use what's called discernment. And that's what this is all about. Be very careful when you think you're all smart by, oh, I know exactly what to look for signs of lying. It's a good basis. It's a good base starting point. But much of it should be common sense that something's off, right? See, that's more feeling related. Science tends to extract itself. It tends to pull itself away from natural human logic and emotion, the feelings that we have. That's where science goes wrong. Many, many times. Science is not perfect, and even real science will admit this. Human emotion is not a science. You could study human emotion and break it down to all these fancy words and everything, all the terminology you want. It doesn't mean that everybody's the same. These blanket statements, you need to be very careful with making blanket statements that this applies to everyone. So let's go ahead and proceed, shall we? Very important that we cover the supposed science, because now we're going to go into lying to protect someone, maybe even yourself, is called telling white lies. You ever heard of a white lie? These are lies that don't harm anyone or carry grave consequences. For instance, if your partner is feeling depressed, but when you ask them how they feel, they tell you they're feeling great. They could be completely pretending to be happy, even though deep down inside they are feeling unfulfilled, sad, upset, worried, anxious, nervous, or depressed. Of course, this is a red flag, because you, as their loving partner, always need to know exactly how they feel. It's your responsibility. And it's their responsibility to know exactly how you feel on a daily basis. This example is no longer an innocent white lie, however, because it has a direct negative impact on your relationship. This is where your intuition, otherwise known as your sixth sense, needs to kick in. You must learn how to accurately sense when something is wrong with your partner. Be careful, though, when using your own sense of intuition, because there's always room for error if you're not careful. In other words, if you insist to your partner that something is wrong and you're just nagging them, when they are indeed telling you the truth, you'll only make them upset by not believing them. The last thing you want to do is create a negative situation where you're falsely accusing your partner of lying to you, even if it's an innocent white lie that you're just making so big, a big deal out of. Many couples unfortunately do this by insisting that they know exactly how their partner feels, even though they are dead wrong. So they sit there or stand there and say, no, I know you're upset. No, I know that you think you're thinking something bad right now. Look, we don't read minds, people. Yes, there are some red flags to be aware of, but that's why communication is key. It's paramount. You can't sit there and say, I know exactly what you're thinking. And unfortunately, many women out there do this, but so do men. So it's a really bad habit, in other words. Just drop the habit. Just talk with your partner. No need to play mind games. Nobody can read each other's minds. Now, granted, sometimes you'll have what's called a jinx, where you both say something at the exact same time, the exact same words. That's a phenomenon. That's like yawning. If I yawn and my partner yawns, there's just no explanation for that. It's beyond contagious behavior, because what are the odds, right? It might be a coincidence. You can chalk it up to that. Whatever floats your boat. I'm just saying that aside from phenomenon, like luck and good things happening all of a sudden, you can't read each other's minds. It doesn't matter how much of a solid connection you have. I'm talking about a perfect soulmate status, the ultimate, the apex, the maximum. You still can't read each other's minds. It's your responsibility to communicate solid 100% with each other. So even white lies, lying about how you feel, that's a mistake. That's a very foolish mistake. Because why are you lying in the first place? If you need to be comforted, that's what your partner's there for. I just don't want to explain it to them, and then they're going to ask me questions. That's your partner we're talking about. They're not going to interrogate you. That's the last thing they want to do. They should be there to comfort you and say, you know what, you don't have to talk about it, but just be honest with me. How do you feel? Okay, you feel sad. Why do you feel sad? Is there something I can do about it? Is there something we can do about it? That's the answer. That's the right answer. Not lying about how you feel because it's a white lie. Yeah, sure. You're not necessarily harming anybody, but technically you are to your partner. You're lying to them, right? There's no need to lie, not even a white lie. Be honest. Like, for example, when you're making plans, I have to say this. I have to interject this. If you're making plans and say, okay, we're going to go to so-and-so restaurant together, and your partner doesn't even want to go there but lies to you and says, oh yeah, that sounds great, and they're just miserable the entire time. That's horrible. Because now you're making your partner think, oh, she wants to go there just as much as I do. Yeah, I only went there, honey, to please you. Terrible. What a failure. So that's playing your partner for a fool. Be honest and say, you know what, I don't feel like going to that restaurant. Is there a better choice that we can both come up with? That's a team player. Don't play mental mind games, okay? You're not an actor. For crying out loud, you guys are partners. For a whole lifetime, hopefully. So let's go ahead and read this. Lying to protect someone could be acceptable in some cases. When someone lies out of altruism to protect others or ease their pain, these lies are considered acceptable white lies. So don't be afraid to lie. I mean, whoever told you have to tell the truth all the time, every time, you might want to be careful with that because you're going to be pretty gullible and people are going to take full advantage of you. White lies usually benefit the person listening. Pro-social lies, like telling a friend you love her gift, are common in relationships and are meant to protect someone's feelings or benefit them in some way. Okay, that's a small example. On the other hand, lies told to cover up or mislead or just to get your way are destructive and weaken the bonds between two people. So as long as a white lie doesn't hurt somebody, but what people consider white lies in between when you're in a relationship, that's where you need to be careful with the white lies. And I'll go over more specifically. Let's go ahead and proceed, shall we? Another example of acceptable white lies depends on your privacy or personal safety. Sometimes one is forced to lie under certain circumstances in order to protect themselves or each other from abusive people, whether it's family members, friends, or strangers. If you choose to tell the truth to the people who are up to no good, gathering information about you and your partner to later use against you, it would be extremely foolish to do so. Not all families are good families, for example. There are many abusive families in our world. Not all supposed friends can be trusted either. They may end up choosing to betray your trust one day, for whatever reason, armed with valuable information, private information, about you and your partner, that they can then easily weaponize to cause you harm or recruit others to create further damage to your relationship. It's crucial to be very careful when trusting others with certain information, such as your sex life, as an example, or your personal finances. This doesn't mean that you can't trust anyone, however. This simply means that certain things are best left unsaid in order to protect you and your partner. A need-to-know basis, in other words. You don't always have to be truthful to others because you're afraid of committing a white lie, an innocent lie that's none of anybody's business, right? It doesn't matter if you and your partner's parents, brothers or sisters, friends or colleagues. If you don't want to provide answers for something personal, don't give these people your personal information or details about your personal life. You and your partner, in fact, are the only ones who need to know private personal details. You'd be surprised. This happens every day. I mean, I've coached people who they have so many interpersonal issues going on with friends, family members, people just getting in their way of the relationship. They want to tear them down for whatever crazy, psychotic, or narcissistic reason. The list goes on of bad intentioned people out there, even strangers who the couple is not even aware of. They just don't like the way they look together, so they want to bring them down any way they can. so they go fishing for some information against them. It's a cruel world out there, okay? So lying to protect privacy is not always morally acceptable. People lie for a variety of reasons, such as to avoid punishment, obtain rewards, or keep personal information secret. However, lying for the sake of protecting yourself or loved ones is deemed acceptable in certain situations. That's what I'm talking about. Examples of such situations include lying to an abuser to escape from or protect someone from domestic abuse, lying to an abuser to protect children from child abuse, and lying to someone who seems to be experiencing a mental health issue. Yeah, you don't want to make a bad situation worse, in other words, right? So imagine if you grew up saying, "Thou shalt not lie," and you never lie at all. You could be putting somebody else in danger, or yourself in danger, or you and everybody in danger by saying, "No, I have to tell the truth because it's my moral code." Are you serious? Do you not think about the given situation at hand and what the potential consequences of telling the truth in such a situation might happen? What they might be? You have to think ahead. You always have to be 2 steps ahead in life. Don't be gullible. Don't be foolish. If you have to tell a white lie to protect yourself or someone else, or especially your partner or a loved one, you should do it. Because it's a white lie, right? Nobody needs to know. You have to think about the potential consequences of your actions, even if it means being forced to lie. Let's go ahead and proceed, shall we? All right. The world is a very cruel place. It's not that you can't trust people these days. It's because there are not that many people you can trust with certain very specific information. In fact, our world is about more information today than it ever has been before. It's an age of information, in other words. It'll never end. Everyone has the natural right to protect their own private information. You don't have to prove anything to anyone if you don't want to. When it comes to the act of lying, you and your partner are the only ones with the authority to make such decisions together as a team. If you need help by reaching out to a psychologist, life coach, relationship coach, therapist, or a friend, that is entirely up to you as to how much information you provide. When it comes to hiring a professional, confidentiality is key. They must promise to protect your privacy. These are professionals, right? Like myself, for instance. There's nothing for me to gain. I have no interest in your personal details. I just want to solve your problems. Done. Get it over with. Then you can probably help somebody else. If you choose to speak to a professional, keep things very simple, focusing only on the topic at hand and not diving too deep into unnecessary information that is completely irrelevant or even slightly irrelevant to the issues being covered. You are not lying by omitting certain information. You are simply protecting yourself. And that's exactly what the professionals should want. They don't need to hear unnecessary information. The same applies when talking to anyone else about your private life. Remember that you are always in control no matter who you choose to share information with regarding your personal life experiences. White lies, in other words, are necessary lies for protection and privacy. So let's go ahead and read this right here. Is it really lying if all you're doing is keeping your mouth shut about something that's nobody's business anyway? Perfectly said. Is it really people's business? Yes or no? It's not, for the most part, right? So you don't have to go out there and tell, especially when it comes to your sex life or personal problems between you and your partner. Be very careful who you tell those problems to, people. Be very careful, because they can and may be used as a weapon against you later in the future. You may not see it now, but just go ahead and talk to couples who have experienced this or who are currently experiencing this. It's not only embarrassing, it's highly offensive, it's intrusive, it ruins relationships. People have even broken up and divorced over this nonsense. All this unnecessary, negative, self-destructive, or mutually destructive, weaponized drama. Unfortunately, that's what people feed off of nowadays. Not everybody, but it's very popular. People love to see drama, crabs in a bucket. They got to bring each other down, everybody down with them. The lowest of the lowest, and they will do whatever it takes to just pry into that information to use it against you. Information is power, people. Don't forget that. Yes, your life and all of its details, your history, your future, what your plans for the future are, your present, what you're going through now, your decisions that you're about to make. Be very careful. It's just like when you're traveling as a tourist. Don't tell anybody anything. Don't tell them what hotel room you're staying in, not even the dang hotel that you're staying in. Keep your information private. And be very careful where your wallet is, that sort of thing. It's not that you can't trust anybody. It's just that security is a must in today's insane world. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's go ahead and move on. All right. Lying with the intent to cause harm, especially to your partner, the person you are supposed to love with all of your heart and soul, is 100% unacceptable. See, this is completely different. Now you have the intent to harm your partner. Cheating on your partner is the worst case of lying. Lying when you should tell the truth is also wrong. The most important part of any relationship is trust. Once that trust has been broken, there is no turning back. And the relationship has completely failed. Always be honest with your partner, no matter what. Avoid telling lies, even white lies, as I said before. Honesty is crucial for success. When it comes to the rest of the world, white lies are completely okay. But when it comes to establishing and maintaining a lifelong level of trust with your partner, any lie you tell your partner only damages the trust you both work so hard to establish. There is no definitive way to tell whether your partner is lying or not, because each relationship is different, with different personalities, different beliefs, and different behavior. That's why always telling the truth to your partner is the best way to prevent lying from even happening. If you and your partner both trust each other 100%, then there should be absolutely no lying whatsoever, because you are both completely happy together. That's why perfection is so important. With no negative behavior, no fear, and no doubt. Both of you are mature, wise, intelligent, and always honest. Lying is one of the quickest ways to ruin a potentially beautiful relationship. And unfortunately, so many couples out there they end up destroying what could have been something so beautiful because they couldn't hang in there. And that's what I call the synchronization process, the first 10 years of living together. And it could take longer, depending on the level of maturity that you and your partner have or don't have. And if you don't have it, it's only going to get worse. So when I say wise, mature, intelligent, trustworthy, they deserve to be called a woman. They deserve to be called a man. To earn those titles and maintain those titles. You know, are they marriage material? Are they potential soulmate material? You have to be the one to answer these questions. I can guide you, but ultimately every situation is different. That's why I have to coach people. I need to know some details before I make a final conclusion and tell you what I think you should do next, or what you shouldn't do next, or how your relationship is going. I need some details. That's the only way I can help you. Do I need all the details? No. I just need the main points. Because then similarities start blending across the table and you can easily ascertain and say, you know what? This sounds like a case I dealt with before. It happens all the time with me when I'm coaching people offline especially. So when they give me information, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like another case that I told. But you know what? I don't do blanket statements. I don't say, I'm going to tell you the same thing I told the other person. No, that's a horrible coach. Regardless of how similar two cases sound, just like a expert lawyer, you have to analyze a case-by-case basis because something could be different, and it doesn't matter if it's just one thing. You need to treat each case with full respect and consideration. Because only a lazy coach, a lazy lawyer, or whatever it may be, somebody evaluating a given situation, would say, oh yeah, that's the same as this, let me just prescribe that. Could be the biggest mistake because you missed that one specific detail that separates it from the rest of all the other cases that are similar. That's where expertise really plays a role. And unfortunately, a lot of people take that for granted. They say, oh, so you're a coach. Well, what are you going to tell me? And then when I end up giving them my advice, they start to get convinced and they're like, oh, well, actually, that's pretty useful. Yeah, what do you think I do this? And it's okay to be skeptical at first. You're just trying to protect your information and trying to think, okay, not expect miracles. I don't expect you to expect miracles. I expect you to appreciate my help, but that's about it. Then you can go about your business. So when it comes to lying to each other in a relationship, don't do it. In the beginning, maybe there are some lies. I mean, this happens, right? During the synchronization process, your partner might simply lie to you. You might lie to your partner because you guys are trying to establish a level of trust, okay? It's perfectly normal. It's a pattern, right? It's okay. It's expected. Later on, you start to trust each other and you do away with the lies, hopefully, because if you're still lying to your partner 10 years later, heck, maybe even 5 years later, then it's only going to get worse. And it does depend what you're lying about, but like I said, you shouldn't be lying about anything, because the most important part of any relationship is trust. So what's the opposite of trust? Deception, holding back, not telling the truth, right? Lying. So don't be deceptive. Don't even give your partner a reason to suspect that you're up to no good. Now, let me just finish off this entire show by saying this. If your partner can't trust you and you are telling the truth all the time and they still have trust issues, that is an enormous red flag that needs to go out the window yesterday. It needs to be completely shredded. That's a trust problem that your partner has. Or if you feel that you still can't trust your partner and there's no real reason to do so. If you have trust issues or your partner has trust issues, you have to learn how to overcome such an issue, because that's highly toxic in an otherwise beautiful relationship where your partner or you are actually telling the truth. But this whole game of suspecting your partner of lying or they're suspecting you of lying, that has to stop. Unless there's an obvious reason to do so. But even so, you guys need to nail that problem. So if you're suspecting her of cheating on you or flirting with other people or speaking inappropriately to other people, just talk about it and find out if your suspicions are accurate or not. Okay? Communication. Okay? Don't just go saying, oh no, I know you're doing this. I can't trust you. See, don't go assuming things. Give them a chance. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay? Don't be a judge, jury, and executioner in 2 seconds. Be mature about the situation. Don't allow your emotions to get out of control. Now you're going to behave all erratic like a Tasmanian devil, spinning yourself in circles until you hit a wall and pass out. That's not being mature in a serious relationship. And you should expect the same from your partner. If they suspect you of doing something nefarious, something behind, the behind the scenes, behind their back, and you're telling them the truth, they should trust you. And if they highly suspect something, you better be ready with those explanations to comfort your partner, to relieve them of such a suspicion, to say, no, look, this is how it really happened, okay? Now, once again, can I be certain as a coach to tell who's lying and who's not? Not 100%, but the more information I have, the more accurate I can sense who is lying and who's not. But sadly, everybody has to be their own judge. You have to have your own level of discernment. So don't trust the science. If they're looking up and to the left, if they're crossing their arms, if they're stuttering, uttering, or muttering, don't look at science. It's only a basic guide. It's not definitive. Look at yourself from within and be very careful with your words and actions. Because the last thing you want to do is toss away something that could have been the best thing on earth, the best thing in your life, all because your suspicions, your insecurities, your trust issues, or their trust issues, insecurities, and false suspicions. Make it work, people. I know it's difficult. I know it's challenging. Jealousy is a huge problem in relationships. And it's not just being jealous of another person. Jealousy is a huge insecurity. And that's another quick ending to a relationship that could have been beautiful. Just unnecessary, immature jealousy that had just no reason for existing in the first place. So, with that said, this topic can easily go on for 2 hours minimum. I could keep talking about lying and all the intricacies, all the case by case basis, because my whole life I've dealt with people who lie for several reasons, not just white lies. And I've dealt with people who are actually telling the truth when many people wouldn't even believe that they're telling the truth, because I was one of the few who actually paid attention. All right, so with that said, hope you guys enjoyed the show or learned something from the show. Please share it with everybody you know if you truly love and care for them as much as you say you do. And happy weekend.